Israel has done some strategic attacks in Qatar. These were targeted attacks, specifically targeting Hamas leadership. Qatar's not happy about this. Obviously, a lot of the leadership in Gaza and Hamas not happy about this. There's a lot of discussion on what is foreign war, what is allowed, what is not allowed. I just want to open up the discussion to you. Obviously, there is a chance that this is another moment where we are heading towards some sort of resolution and ending to this. Qatar has been home now, though. Do we know it's sort of the negotiating platform, the place where they have been going to have these meetings between Israel and Hamas to try to get things handled, or Hamas and third-party entities to get things handled. And now it has gotten to their soil. We had the attack that happened in Jerusalem just the day before yesterday. Or was that yesterday? Yesterday. And then, of course, today you have Israel fighting back against Hamas, doing a direct targeted strike inside the borders of Qatar. And again, that changes the game in many different ways. There's a lot of consequences that come with this even strategic action.
Well, and I think it's important to walk people through, because you even mentioned that terror attack yesterday in Jerusalem. That was where 6 people at least were killed, a dozen injured, many in very serious condition. But over the weekend, President Trump posted on Truth Social just a little bit over a day ago, everyone wants the hostages home. Everyone wants the war to end. The Israelis have accepted my terms. It is time for Hamas to accept as well. I have warned Hamas about the consequences of not accepting. This is my last warning. There will not be another one. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Signed, President Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America. Then reportedly, Hamas had said something to the effect of, this is an idea, a concept. This isn't an offer per se. We know that Steve Witkoff as well as Jared Kushner were both in Qatar, expecting to have some at least direct or indirect talks with these leaders of Hamas. Many leaders of Hamas had actually come into the country of Qatar in order to discuss, negotiate, or even strategize how they can half accept and balk at it later, as they tend to do. And so they were all meeting this leadership in Doha today when this strike happened. Yesterday, we saw that there was this terror attack in Jerusalem. Prime Minister Netanyahu has said that this was a retaliatory attack because of that terror attack, that they took action against the leadership. Why are these leaders in Doha? Why is Hamas able to operate there? It had been for a very long time what seems to, in hindsight, have been a failed policy of even the Netanyahu regimes in Israel of allowing them to have their political arms within safe harbor within Doha, so they could keep an eye on them, keep tabs on them, and the government of Qatar kind of let them live there relatively safe. Qatar, a strong ally in some senses. We have a very large military presence, a base in Qatar.
Many of the countries.
Right. Between Bahrain and Qatar, we have some of the largest military ties to these nations. Although Qatar has a very checkered past when it comes to funding terrorism, allowing Hamas to live there unfettered. And so Israel took what was a bold step today, something they had not ever done. It's about 1,000 miles away from Israel to get to Qatar. It's surrounded on all land sides by Saudi Arabia, and then it kind of juts off the peninsula into the Persian Gulf, and across the Persian Gulf is Iran. So this strike targeted 2 key leaders of Hamas. However, there are reports that there were many more in the building. We don't have full confirmation. There's been some reports from even groups like CNN and some of the outlets within the region that there were effective strikes, that there were members of Hamas taken out. We don't have a full accounting of that yet. But also we know that Qatar itself is very displeased with this, because these were airstrikes on their sovereign territory.
Look, if it happened in America, if you think about this, if Israel decided, hey, we're going to conduct airstrikes in the United States to take out, maybe some sleeper cells that are here, I don't think Donald Trump and the United States government will be too thrilled either.
No, and this is what the foreign minister spokesperson in Qatar said. The state of Qatar strongly condemns the cowardly Israeli attack that targeted residential buildings housing several members of the political bureau of Hamas in the Qatari capital. Doha. This criminal assault constitutes a blatant violation of all international laws and norms, and poses a serious threat to the security and safety of Qataris and residents in Qatar, as well as it goes on that there's an investigation underway at the highest level, and further details will be announced as soon as they are available. So they're not happy.
Pretty strong
Understandably
words.
so.
Understandably, that may be even stronger words than you think, because those are not necessarily saying, how dare they? It's like you took out. Yes, it was leadership in Hamas, but it was in residential areas. And of course, that has been a discussion that has happened a lot with Benjamin Netanyahu and this administration of how they've been doing it. Now, remember, and I'm going to take a phone call that then will lead me into this comment. Let's go to call line number 2, Alan in New York. Go ahead.
Yes, my question I wanted to get your take is, I'm a strong supporter of Israel. Why? There's no been accountability with Netanyahu, his Minister of Defense, Minister of Intelligence, for the worst attack on the Jewish nation since the Holocaust, and knowing that every day that those hostages were there, they were getting beaten, raped, and murdered, that most people believe, from a military standpoint, they should have went in within 7 days max. To have this stretch out and for those people to go through that is ridiculous. I'm a strong supporter, but there needs to be accountability in the nation of Israel itself, their government, and I was wondering your take.
Sure, Alan. I do think there will be some of that when this war has come to an end. Israel is pretty strong with not letting a lot of this go in terms of the way political structures run. We got to remember, it's a very diverse country. It's maybe primarily a Jewish country, but politically very diverse. You have just like here, you have the conservatives and you have liberals that are protesting in the streets against the Netanyahu administration. Now, thank God they're able to actually do that in this country. Now, when you say why it's taking so long to rescue the hostages, I think there's a few different reasons. The hostages are being hidden amongst civilians, are being put in places where you're not just going to indiscriminately go in, attack, and bomb. You got to remember that. They wouldn't be hiding, whether that is members of Hamas or hiding hostages, they wouldn't be doing that in residential areas, in hospitals and all this, if Israel didn't have a care for human life. And I think that's been sort of a weird topic that people don't want to address, is, yes, they hide amongst the people. Why? Because Israel isn't known for going in and wiping out residential areas and causing mass casualties amongst civilians. Of course, there has been some brutal imagery that has come out of there, and I'm not downplaying that at all. But you wouldn't be hiding people, hostages, in these areas if they didn't care about human life, because they would have already done that. They would have already leveled the entire area. It's not that big of an area. But they haven't. And that brings us to that weird nexus, as I said, where either you figure out a way to end this war, Netanyahu administration, whether that is by your end goal, which is the complete obliteration of Hamas and to take back over Gaza, or you figure out a way to end it where Israel still comes out as victorious and you don't give anything up, because I'm concerned about that as well, as the tide is turning